everybody. I'm Cameron.
I'm Zach.
I know everything.
I like dragons.
You do. You really do. And this is the Watching You Watch podcast.
Oh.
So, not to jump right into this, but
there were dragons.
But there were dragons.
Holy crap, were there
And there
dragons?
was fire.
Yeah.
Lots of fire.
Very satisfying. It's a thing you see coming that is very satisfying.
Yes. Before we jump like really far into that and start talking about it, like there's a lot to talk about this episode. We just finished watching episode 4 of season 3 of Game of Thrones, entitled "And Now His Watch Is Ended," and that of course is a reference to the funeral words that are said for the Night's Watch members, and we get a little taste of that this episode too. But man, Zach, like,
It's interesting.
there's so much that happens this episode.
Yeah.
Like
the Crow's side plot is like just the half of it.
I mean, just to count it off here, like all the plot lines we see
A lot.
we see Starks, we see Tyrells, we see Lannisters, we see Night's Watch people, we see Daenerys and her people, we see the Brotherhood
we
without
find out
banners.
someone's with their fire cult. That's not good.
Yeah, that all happens. Zach, I know there's a lot to talk about already,
see.
but what are some of your highlights from this episode?
Definitely anything with the Tyrell. Like,
Okay.
Grandma Tyrell shows up again, and she's just brilliant. And her and Varys talk, and they're the power couple for the century. Really some great rhetorical questions.
Yeah. My favorite comment she has is about when your stump of a nothing bumps
into my
uglies with an
decrepit
old
loins.
with an old person. What happens? Oh, I guess that's a question for the philosophers.
As he looks like offended.
Yeah.
And like wants to go
And he's
in
like-
a huff, and she's like, no, don't worry about it. Get back here. I was just screwing with you.
Yeah, basically. Like, she's just like, lol.
And it's funny because it's terrifying
Like
how they always seem to know what everyone's going to say without them having to say it.
From the moment she says, oh, look, there's a spider in the garden, like, it's gonna go well.
Well, and also the fact that she's like, saying how their cross stitch is weak.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, what other highlights do you have from this?
Well, it seems like all of the Lannister children just can't seem to quite get ahead, because Tyrion is terrified by the true implications of someone who follows their revenge through. As in the spider finding the sorcerer who castrated him and keep him in a box just because he can.
Just because he can.
Because he's patient. Oh boy. And Cersei just running around like, Daddy, I can do good. And he's like, really? And she's like, yes. And he's like, no.
Yeah, he's like, you can't control Joffrey, so you done goofed.
You can't do it. And then there's Jaime, who wants to like give up on life, and Brienne's like, get it together, man. And
Yeah.
he's like, all right, Brienne.
He's like, I lost my hand.
I lost my
Suck
hand. They
face.
make me wear it, and I can't. And it's my sword hand. That's my only good hand. And she's
Yeah.
like, dude, come on.
Yeah. Stop acting like a girl.
Which is completely dumb, because the girl characters are some of the strongest characters in this entire show.
That's very true.
It's dumb, but
Yep.
it's just how those stereotypes pervade all cultures.
Right.
Anyways, also the crows just go totally rogue and kill like Big Daddy Crow, and also Craster's Incest Summer Camp is now down its one and only really effed up instructor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Sam runs away with the girl and the baby, and he's ready to tackle the struggles of being a father to a bastard child.
And also in the Night's Watch.
And
Which I'm sure they're going to have some things to say about that.
I'm sure that, and also his dear bully friend wants to eat him still or something. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know,
They
man.
make so many jokes like, oh, I bet you taste good, which is really weird.
And also how they say it's like, oh man, Ben had never smelled this good.
Yeah, they're
in
burning
life.
the night at the pyre, and he's like,
Yeah,
man,
it's
he
like-
smells really good.
And it's kind of sad, because that's probably how hungry they
They're
are.
very hungry, clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy, and that's just like, and it's crazy because it's weird to see like how the crows like split in half. There's the crows that are still sort of loyal, and the crows are like, F this, we were literally criminals.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of sad because like some of the crows we grew to like know and sort of love are taken down by like the a-holes.
Right.
Which checks out to the real world, and Game of Thrones sticks to real world, not the good guy gets the good thing.
Yeah.
Because, well, Ned Stark didn't get very much good.
Yeah, I would agree. And also in the vein of that, like the Knight Commander, Mormont, he bites it. He bites it this episode, and it's just really sad.
It really stinks because he's like, I'm going to kill this kid. I'm bleeding a lot internally. Well, dang.
Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like he was like the unfortunate casualty of that whole thing, you know?
Yeah, just because
he got dealt a bad hand of cards, and like, of course the Night's Watch people were going to be mutineers under those
circumstances. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but still, blows all around. Like, everything there's just going to go to crap.
Right. And of course, it all ends in a magnificent explosion. With
violence.
Yeah, with Daenerys.
Oh, yes. And it's just like this 100%, like, she just has, as soon as she, like, has that smirk, and as soon as she, like, especially, like, if people didn't get it before, as soon as she drops it, she knows Valyrian, it's like, you're done.
Yep.
You big dumb idiot.
Yeah. Like, she was never going to part with that dragon.
It's like, that was obvious from the start, but still. And
right.
The funny thing is the best part of it is she knows she doesn't need to control the dragon. The dragon's like, no, you suck.
Yep. She just kind of lets it, like, she says Dracarys, and then she lets it do its thing after that and just burns down everything.
Yeah, and I think the only reason it was even, not murdering everything up to that point was the fact that she had probably not said so.
Right.
Because they are semi-trained, you know.
That's true. But they're like, they're her babies. So,
exactly.
They're going to listen to mommy.
Exactly.
So.
Duh. They imprinted so hard.
Right.
That they became her, like, clothing.
Right. I guess so when we first see them, yeah.
What else is exciting? Oh gosh, the Tyrells are literally trying to take over, like, all of the Seven Kingdoms through marriage.
Yeah.
Not war, but marriage.
The Tyrells, they're doing what they do best.
And that is being pretty.
And... yeah.
And subterfuge. The thing is, it's so cool, but I'm literally the most terrified of Grandma Tyrell and Margarine than, like, anything else in this show. Like, anything at all. Like, Loras is literally, it's just kind of scary because it's like, whatever, we wrap men around our finger and men run the world. So we end up running the world because we wrap them around our finger.
Right. I love that whole. I loved watching you during this episode because
I totally caught. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, they're totally going to try and marry her to Loras because she had already seen he was pretty, and like they know they can pull the she's dumb and innocent card because that's just the kind of people that are. I was like, she's gonna try and marry her brother off. She's gonna do it, and then she's like, wouldn't it be great for sister? I'm like, I freaking called it.
Yeah.
Like as soon as she stepped up to them, first I said I was terrified because of the threats she made, and then I'm like. There is no actual true goodwill behind this. And that's probably the most terrifying part.
So
what's really scary is the fact that goodwill is secondary to them. The power that goodwill can bring them is what's important to them, and that's scary.
So you think that like the whole like posturing that Margaery was doing with Sansa was totally not genuine?
I just have this sneaking suspicion it's not, because they're willing to just drop and do whatever if it helps them. I don't know.
I mean, because like when Varys comes to visit Lady Olenna, they talk about Sansa for a little bit there, and then like he says like.
But everyone knows she's a pawn piece, and they're getting theirs.
Well, yeah, but he like you see Olenna express sympathy for her, I think she says, I think she's a dull girl, but she has an interesting childhood, and I feel bad for her. Basically,
yeah. Well, just because someone can have sympathy for someone doesn't mean they won't slit their throat.
That's true. This is Game of Thrones you're talking about, so
yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's really hard to see their game through, but when you see like the full scope of how like just intense they can be in the game,
right?
It's really kind of terrifying because people don't get this much forward motion without like resistance, and they aren't meeting resistance.
Right. Okay. Well, let's dial it back a little bit and really unpack this episode because like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot that happens in it, and we definitely need to unpack a number of things.
There's even weird dream work times.
Yeah, that does happen too.
Also doubly get his.
Yes. But I want to talk first about one of the first things we see this episode, which is Varys's conversation with Tyrion. It starts like a very interesting normal conversation between them.
Yeah,
and then Varys
here's
is like,
my backstory. It's like, I'm not interested. He's like, well, I have you here.
Yep. And then we find out that the sorcerer that castrated Varys as he's telling him his story is in the box that Varys is trying to open the whole time.
Horrific. And like the other implication of that scene is this is either the place where like Varys sleeps or a place he spends a lot of time. So he just like lords the fact that he has this guy wrapped like his life in his hands all the time.
Right. So like what are your impressions of Varys, particularly in light of that scene, particularly in light of the fact that he shared it with Tyrion? Like what are your thoughts of Varys
like,
now?
I really do think they built a confidence, and I think he even said, I don't think it was to Tyrion, but it was to Grandma Tyrell, that like the people he trusts fiercely. And I feel as if Tyrion is definitely
like Tyrion's earned that place.
Yes, he is like considered in the Varys camp. Like Varys has like let him in. Like there's no way he would have shown that to like Cersei or Littlefinger. Like he showed it to Tyrion.
Right.
And that was extremely pointed. I feel as if there's this sort of implication that he's shown no one but Tyrion this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like obviously the people who like got him that and all that stuff, but anyone of like important King's Landing has no idea.
I feel like it's the type of thing too that like if anybody knew about,
that would be a big deal.
It would totally be a piece of leverage against Varys, and everybody would want that.
Well, that guy would become a piece against Varys,
right?
Which is interesting because she's showing a very big vulnerability, and the fact that, well, he also admits he like hates magic, like that's his weakness. Like it's literally like Superman going up to Lex Luthor and being like, "Hey, you know, kryptonite, really don't like it."
Right. Which now does give us a little more context as for why Varys was definitely like very anti-Stannis before then.
And his fire priestess, red priestess, which he says about. It's very that I don't know. Like I feel as if the scene really rounded him out and really just like makes him stick true to his character because like he sticks by the goal of like. And it's interesting that he was theater at first, which is funny because when he talks to Ned about, you know, like I'm just a background character keeping like the realm safe. It's interesting that kind of comes into play.
Right.
It just, I don't know. It really makes his character come together, and it makes sense.
What about this darker side of him though, where we see him like enacting revenge here?
I am not at all surprised. Like I assume that all of the basically the people at the table there are capable of this or do this to some extent.
Right. And while we're talking about Varys too, the next scene we see Varys in is when he is talking with Roose at Littlefinger's brothel, and we find a little nugget of information here that it just happens very briefly, but becomes very pivotal.
Relevant
obviously,
to other
he finds out
conversations.
that Littlefinger is making plans to whisk Sansa away. Yeah. So what do you think about this whole ploy going on here?
It makes it so much more pointed when the Tyrells are making so much stronger overt moves, because Littlefinger's like, hey, you want to leave? You're like, nah. And he's like, okay.
Right. Because earlier we found out from Roose that she thinks that Littlefinger is dangerous, particularly with his desire for Sansa.
Well, yeah, like his desire for power is terrifying because he seems to have the tendency to get it, because he grew from nothing to literally one of the people that rules one of the
And
most
it's kind of interesting, too,
cities.
that when Varys is recruiting Olenna to join his side, he doesn't frame it in the whole, like, you know, let's do the right thing for Sansa. It's more or less like, let's do the right thing for the realm.
And that once again fits his MO.
Right.
Because he's like, you know, you guys are probably his whole thought is you guys are going to be more stable rulers. We're going to see less conflict if this goes through. And it's ostensibly true. If the Tyrells take over, like the war may literally be off, or it may taper off in a way that it would not have if they continue in the way they are now. Like, as far as what's best best things that could happen to this realm. Honestly, the Tyrells taking over would be, but it's just sort of terrifying for all the characters caught in the lurch.
Right. And then he mentions like Littlefinger is only like one step away from having an army, basically. If he's about to get Sansa,
if he gets a title and if he gets like that amount of land, yes, it is. He will have an army. Like he will have the castle guard and be able to build out from there quite easily.
What do you think Littlefinger would do if he had an army?
That is, oh my god, I would. If he figured out, the thing with it is he seems to be the slowest on the uptake of like the inner machinations, but he figured out about the Tyrells, he would try to kill Robb, because that's the whole Tyrell thing. Like they will take over if they do that, and he will try and secure the best position for himself. I don't see him vying for king.
Okay, so you don't think he's gunning for the throne?
Not at first.
Okay.
He's a very step-by-step kind of man.
Okay.
Like I see him working up to maybe become Hand.
Okay.
And then somehow it's like, oh no, the poor ruler. Well, there's no one else at the table anymore.
Luckily, I'm here.
Looks like Littlefinger time.
Which wouldn't that be crazy, going from like nobody to king of the
and that's what's kind of terrifying, because I think he understands that amount, but I don't think he understands enough. And I think that it's very good that this show sort of shows it that way. Like he's extremely good at the game, and he has a large amount of influence that he's built, but it was mostly due to kind of how like what Littlefinger mentioned before was like this patience.
You mean Varys mentioning that before.
Oh, flip. Yeah. Varys mentioning that before, which is interesting. And I think that's probably why Varys finds Littlefinger so interesting, because he could probably see some of himself in him.
They have a lot of in common.
Yeah, and it's very true, and it's probably why they grate on each other so easily.
That's true. Okay. One other thing that we don't really get to see a whole lot of, but I also think is really interesting, is Theon in this episode. Theon, he kind of has a little bit of a breakdown, and he admits that he killed those boys to cover up the fact that he couldn't kill the Stark boys and secure Winterfell for himself.
Make Poppy proud.
But as soon as he has this moment, his rescuer reveals the ruse, and the
ruse is that it's like, we brought you to Yana's castle to torture you.
But it's regardless, we see the cross up in the dungeon. It's like, okay.
As soon as you saw that, you're like, well, that's not a good sign,
right? So, do you have any speculation as to what's going on with Theon's captor? Like, who is he really? What's really going on there? Was anything he said true? Was it all?
That's what's sort of terrifying, because I mean, like, the lengths to which this guy went, like killing fellow soldiers, whether who they're truly aligned with remains to be seen. I honestly, my first inklings of this are that it's kind of scary, because he mentions like, oh, there's people for your father and people who are Yana, but maybe there's this thing where his father is a tsundere, but his sister just doesn't want the father to ever be like, oh, you're my son. I feel as if this is a thing where she probably wants to kill him with his own hands and be like, I worked for this. You played like Stark for so long, and you're not going to come back and take this from me.
They weren't really on the best of terms back on the Iron Islands.
And she definitely strikes me as the person that would like kill her brother if he stood a chance of taking power from her in cold blood. Paying all kinds of iron price.
It's kind of interesting how they do it in the show, though, because we go so many episodes with thinking that like maybe this is all building up to something. Theon's torture is leading towards something, and then he escapes, and then he's back captured like
in another place where I think his sister's probably gonna murder him. Like, that's my general prediction. I feel as if this is her machinations to make sure that he doesn't gain any influence, because truth be told, his father didn't. He's only admitted to that one guard that what he did in Winterfell was a ruse.
Right.
Even if it was a poor tactical decision, like, his father may see a little bit of, chutzpah in her or something. I don't know. I feel as if she's the kind of person that wouldn't take a chance. Because, I mean, ostensibly for the longest time, it wasn't even a problem. Wasn't even a thought in her mind. So
right. And then he just shows up one day.
Shows up out of nowhere and it's like, yeah, I'll be a Greyjoy. And she's like, well, frick.
Yeah.
I've been a Greyjoy this whole time. Get out of here. Get in line.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. She is a very powerful presence in the show, even when she's not. We haven't seen her at all this season.
We haven't. No, we haven't. But like, even just from what we saw from her last season, like, that's what I feel she would do.
Okay, well, let's move on. I want to talk about one other big relationship that we get a lot of in this episode, and that's between Jaime and Brienne. And we find out this episode that Jaime lied last episode. He crafted this tale about the Sapphire Islands having gems, and it turns out that none of that was true, and he knew it, she knew it, which means he lied to protect her, which feels really counter to Jaime's character.
Yeah, because the whole time he's just poking fun at her and being a general jerkwad, and like he tried on multiple occasions to try and just kill her and get away.
Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think is happening here? Why do you think Jaime lied for Brienne?
I don't know. It's kind of sad, but once again, I just think that the Lannisters are too freaking twisted for it not to be to their own purposes. It's just that she is literally the only piece he has in this game, so he wants to probably try and use her. It's unfortunate that I can't see any kind of goodwill, but like the way they make it feels like there's some kind of kinship or something. But
right.
Every time he has ever tried to do that, I don't know, it just goes with the dirty, underhanded fight he seems to do. Like, he tried to level Ned Stark and be, like, friendly with them, and he stabbed him. And there was that one boy, and he's like, oh, you're beige, and it's great, and stab.
So are you worried for Brienne then in light of this, or?
Not in this scenario, because it would be dumb of him to not try and save her. And the only reason he started eating is because she said so, and you know what that means? He knows she's definitely in his camp.
So, do you think this is indicative of any major change to Jaime's character, or is this just a survival behavior?
I think it is literally a survival behavior, but what's interesting is it could become something else, and I think he's probably actually maybe even going to feel a little conflict related to that. He may have to go against his typical survival instincts of, I can use these people for my advantage right now and I need to survive, to maybe we're actually comrades. There is a slight possibility, but it's like a 70-30 with the 30 being the nice one.
Right. Okay.
This show has broken me.
See, we are accomplishing something here now.
It's broken me. I can't trust anything.
Okay, well, on that note, let's talk about what the Tyrells are doing. We already talked about it a little bit. I kind of want to talk about it more focused, though. We get this great scene in the Sept in King's Landing,
yeah, my gosh.
Where Margaery is really playing... She's playing Joffrey like a fiddle.
It's nuts.
And it's perfect and beautiful, and yet like
everyone knows it but Joffrey.
They open the doors and the crowds are all like, "Oh, look, it's Lady Margaery," and they're waving to her, and like,
and she gets into wave, and she gets, "This is nice."
Yeah, it's like nice, and then you see Cersei's reaction, and Cersei is like, "What's happening?" And,
oh no, she's changing my little monster, and I couldn't do it.
Right, and yet she has this conversation with Olenna in the Sept about how, like, like Olenna says, isn't it really stupid and backward that like the men have to run everything just because they're men? And
Olenna's like, well, look at my daughter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, it's crazy. So what do you think is going through Cersei's mind in this moment, in these moments where she's sitting there and watching the Tyrells, just the expert players here,
walk all over anything she's tried. I think it's just sort of her thing of realizing the way she raised her son was setting her up for this, and it hurts doubly as much. Like, it's just like, I literally can't do anything about this, and if I speak up about it, I'm in a war position, so here I have to sit. And the Tyrells know it too. So it just blows. All she has is her wine and her cousins.
Her wine and cousins, our only vices.
Her only vices, wine and cousins.
Oh, good grief. Do you have any sympathy for her now, or is it still like she's getting what she deserves after everything?
She made a crappy king, and she also is directly responsible for like the Stark house falling. No. Ever. Like, I feel as if there's been a lifetime of comeuppance that she, like, we haven't even seen on screen that are coming to haunt her through the way she, like, spoiled her son through the way she lived and expected everything to just work out fine because it works out fine.
And you're my little prince and like everything.
You're my little prince and nothing
Yeah.
can harm you because my daddy didn't love me, so I'm going to love you so much. And you see how well that worked out.
Right.
So we found that there has to be moderation because if
Yeah.
you're an absolute a-hole to your kids, they'll grow to despise you and make your grandchildren spoiled king killers.
Right. And then, which leads me to a point here, because she does decide to bring this issue to Daddy Lannister, to Tywin.
And it's weird because I feel as if he knows.
And it's almost like he doesn't care.
And that's the terrifying thing because he's also a terrifying power player, and it's also the sort of patience things. He has stuff in the works. There's nothing that anyone has brought up to him that he doesn't already know about and is not already working towards, but he does it in his time. Right. It's like, you had to fix this now. I was like, I am getting there. Cool it.
Yeah. But it also kind of hits on this theme that is kind of buried in this episode a little bit, but we hear Olenna talk about the fact that, like, House Tyrell, its sigil is the rose. It's not going to ever be known for its epic fighters and warriors.
Oh, yeah, it's true. He actually talks about krakens and wolves and lions, which are all house crests.
Right. And except the way that they are kind of conquering right now is like through, oddly enough, love. Like the way that they are, like, getting people to love them or manipulating people. And it's kind of interesting that, like, that Tywin, being who he is, probably someone who's pretty incapable of love, as evidenced by the very bad relationship he has with his children, doesn't really understand how that's dangerous. The way that they're
and it's interesting
waging
because
this battle.
I feel as if Cersei totally does, and Tywin honestly may be underestimating it, but what's terrifying is he may not be, because money and like power and his military plots literally just may be able to be like, nah.
Right. And we've talked about this earlier about, this concept of, like, as a king, is it better for people to love you, or is it better for somebody to fear you?
And it's interesting because we see both now in King's Landing.
Right.
Tyrells of love and the Lannisters of...
People fear the Lannisters and love the Tyrells, and now they're coming together. They're joining houses. Like, what does that mean for Westeros?
What is that? I don't even know. It just means Daenerys is going to have a lot harder time getting the Iron Throne.
Of course.
Yeah, because that's what it comes down to. But she's going to need a lot of boats.
She's going to need a lot of boats for all of her.
Either that or she's just
going
to just pick up, like, all the people.
Right.
From good old, like,
she's only got the one boat right now, so...
Yeah, I don't think, like, her 8,000 plus troops are going to fit on there. Because the thing with it is those 8,000 were just the people they found, okay. Not like the people who were being, tortured or any of the other sort of, like, randos they had.
Right.
Not even starting to be trained.
But she also laid waste, like she says, kill the masters during that scene. So they laid waste to pretty much all the influential people in that city.
I'm talking about just, like, whatever slaves they had that they hadn't done much else with.
Gotcha.
I mean, some of them were guards, but they were done.
Right. But she's got an army. That's the important part.
A terrifying, terrifying army that now loves her.
Yeah.
Because she don't need the whip.
Right.
She is the whip.
She is the whip. She drops the whip that she received in the ground when they're leaving the city, and, like, that's it. She knows she has these people because they fight for her. Which I wonder this myself when I watch this even now, is like, do the Unsullied that she picks up here,
they don't even know what they're going to be doing. They're just like, yes, this lady.
Right. But it's like they're so, like, how do they understand what, like, love is enough to love her, to follow her into battle, and not because, like, she owns them, like it's really impressive that kind of they spend all of, like, their lives and their childhoods being, like, stripped away to become, like, the perfect killing machines, and yet Daenerys comes in and immediately gives them that, like, ounce of humanity back that they, like...
It's like you can see
they're inspired by her.
That you want so much, and
yet they're still really...
Yeah, and she's like,
epic
you can leave.
Machines.
We completely understand if you don't
want
to. And not
a single one goes.
And they're like, no, that's awesome. We like this one.
Right.
And I do also love how you said her sassy friend now they have matching outfits. I'm like, yes, this is perfect.
Everybody has matching outfits. There's even blue on Jorah's.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Thing, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, his accents became blue. Holy cow. It's I want to think of the off chance. You're like, well, Jorah, I need to get a blue sash. It's like, why? It's like, just cause.
Like that whole conversation where they're shopping and be like, okay, so today when we pick up this army, we're gonna wear blue.
And it's like, is this important? Yes.
It's very important.
This is very important. But you have to have the red dragon. Why not the blue one? No, the red one.
It's called coordinating colors. Coordinating colors.
Friday is red day, but we're wearing blue because we look great in blue today. No, I don't ever. Well, never mind. I don't know if she would. She does have the princess in her, but it's weird. She's a very, very layered character.
She is.
How deep did the princess go underneath everything? Or is this just what princess becomes when it evolves?
True. Hard to say.
Who can say?
All right, well, let's move to our weekly wrap-up questions. A lot of people we saw this episode, so I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of difficult conversation for you to figure out who is the winners this week. But let's start with one simple, the Stark of the week. We really only see Sansa and Arya, I guess, and only really briefly. So
yeah, there's no Jon Snow, there's no Robb.
Yeah, no Jon. Just Sansa and Arya this episode.
Kind of blows because, Sansa doesn't really do anything other than get manipulated, which is status quo.
Yeah, it is pretty status quo.
So it really, honestly, unfortunately, as much as, well, I don't hate to say it, but it's just the canned response is it's Arya.
Right.
Because she sticks up, and it's funny because, even the leader of, the band... No, the
Brotherhood without Banners.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Banners without Brotherhood. Wait,
that's wrong.
Hold on, the Banners without Brotherhood. Interesting, they're sisters.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways,
the Brotherhood without Banners.
Recognize that she's the most brave one because she calls him out for what he did, and it's interesting because they're having this faux trial.
Right.
It's well, trial by combat. It's whatever. I'm the freaking hound.
Yeah. He's like, I don't care.
I'm about to be your leader, y'all.
Right. Little does he know that these Lord of Light people like fire a lot, and he doesn't like fire so much.
A lot. Yeah, which he's actually pretty near a fire. I'm surprised. I think the only reason he hasn't freaked out is just because he's so ticked off at everyone near him.
Yeah, he's just fueled by rage.
Yeah, he literally is a rage person.
Anyway, we digress. Arya gets Starker of the week this week.
Yeah.
Almost mostly by default.
Of hands down default.
Right.
Because Sansa didn't do anything new or different. She was just a pawn in the game.
But I'm sure our contest for who gets the crown this episode is a little more complicated.
Boy.
So if you had to give one person the crown based upon how well they played the game this episode, who does it go to?
Jeez.
Many strong power players.
I think it honestly has to go to Margaery because she's about to literally just seize the Seven Kingdoms with the least amount of bloodshed and honestly effort.
Yeah.
It's pretty effortless for her to just suck up to Joffrey because he's an easy book to read, and Sansa is too. So it's she doesn't even have to try.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting seeing the ways that she just subtly changes the way she acts and what she says around all those people.
I mean, and you can tell the full breadth and depth of what she can do based on how she talks to the guards and how she talks to Sansa and how she actually switched between the two, in and out, just in a second. That's something thinking back, I'm kind of and no, that's actually what terrified me about her. She's talking to her. I was please go away. And they're
not
gonna go away. It's oh, Sansa, how you doing? Seriously, I will tell the king if you don't go away.
Right.
Oh, Sansa. And it's what the hell was that?
not only that, but she, when she's with Joffrey, she's playing to that mean streak in him. She's ooh, tell me about this bloody violence.
Yeah, the bloody violence in the Cobb, but
and she's playing to his arrogance and pride too.
And switch because she's oh, but they love you. Yeah, exactly. Because she gets him all nice and print him. Is make them love you, and he's it's all right. And she's yeah, you're sure right. It is.
Yeah.
I would give any money for them to just voice over her head thoughts as she's doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Any amount of money.
There'd be a lot of screaming internally noises.
I wonder if that's just her the entire time. Joffrey's talking to her Ooh, that's actually a nice mural.
Yes. Good grief.
It's either that or she's just thinking is like, I can poison him. Once you're married, I can poison him. I don't even have to wait long. Just in the morning, he's going to drink at the marriage. Or maybe I can just stab him. Or shoot him with his own crossbow. Oh my god, the freaking justice of shooting him with his own crossbow. I'll pretend it was an accident, and then I'll shiv him with it and look in his eyes as the light just fades from it. Sounds good.
This is the perfect headcanon.
Listen, my headcanon is flawless.
Okay, well, let's move on to best plan, worst plan. A lot of people are making plans this episode still. So who at this episode made the best plan? Who this episode made the worst plan moving forward?
Best plan goes to Daenerys, hands down. I didn't give her crown because it wasn't the most crown related, but like, you see it coming, you know what's happening. 100% win, no % loss.
Yeah, she goes in,
gets her army, and there's no cost.
No cost.
She still keeps her Dothraki gold just to, you know, buy beautiful outfits
Right.
with. Which the funny thing is that she probably bought that when ostensibly after that she could have just taken whatever was there. Which I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. So, what about worst plan? I guess it's really hard to quantify this one, mainly because there's so many plans moving forward that we have no idea of like where they're going.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one to be the worst plan, which one would it be?
I'm stuck between two. Littlefinger's plan to just basically abduct Sansa.
Okay.
And Sam's plan to run away with her mother and child in the middle of the cold white north that's almost winter.
Interesting. Okay.
Those are my two worst plans. It's literally a toss-up. I could just throw a coin up. I don't know.
Which one do you think will result in more death?
Oh.
Maybe
more
that
death
one
or
is
more
the good.
tragic death? Because more tragic... Not...
Either.
I think Littlefinger's is going to probably result in the most death. Maybe I don't know. Oh man. Oh man, thinking this through makes me really stressed.
There's a realization moment.
Both of them make me really stressed. At first I didn't think his would be as bad, and the more I think about either, the worse it becomes. Because I mean, like, it'd already be tragic because I just don't think the mother and the child are going to make it, and I think one of them's going to die and then the other. I feel as if it's probably more going to be the mother than him. Like, she'll probably die protecting her child. And be like,
you think Gilly's going to die?
Baby. And then the baby's probably going to die. And it's going to be a really sad Sam time. And he's going to be being hunted and have a dead baby. And it's like, this is the worst timeline. But then there's also, like, Littlefinger, who's going to probably... Like, okay, worst case scenario, his plan doesn't go through. He finds out Rose is in with Varys. Rose dies, which blows, because she's a great character that's not in the books, which makes her, like, she has no plot armor, zero plot armor, and, just because Sansa's gonna get especially screwed by anything that happens if any one of the power players are unhappy and she's still in King's Landing, which will probably happen, because that just seems to be, she does not pass go. She just stays right there. Does not collect 200.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, while we're still on the topic of plot armor, even just tangentially here, I will put this out here to you, Zach. That
no, don't do it.
The books the show has killed characters who are still alive in the books. And the show has like invented characters that aren't in the books at all.
No.
So
I don't like it.
I just be very careful about ascribing plot armor and not plot armor to anybody.
I can't even be comfortable about anything. This blows. I can't even harden my heart enough to I have to harden my heart to everything. I have to look at the show like I have no soul.
And now you are learning what it truly means to watch Game of Thrones.
I guess I actually will pick Littlefinger's plan because I feel as it has the most out-branching ramifications because of the amount of power players that will react and therefore cause butterfly effects to other things.
Right.
Like Sam and that thing, I just feel is going to be tragic from the start because when wasn't it? So I guess due to the predictability of that and the absolute crazy stuff that could happen, I'm going to give it to Littlefinger's plan to, basically abduct Sansa.
Right. Okay. Well, I think we'll need to move to our last weekly wrap-up question here, which is the question of how hopeful you are. And I think your answer to this is going to be very telling about which side you're rooting for. So
oh my gosh, that's hard, because a lot of things are bad for people I'm in their camp for, and some things are actually good.
I mean, if you're in Camp Daenerys, like, this should be a really high hopeful level for you. But if you're in camp, I don't know.
The thing with it is Daenerys is doing fine, and that's not going to change. Stuff up north is not great, and like King's Landing is going bad. So like a lot of the characters are not going to have a good time. Like I feel like the Daenerys thing was thrown out there at the end, so it's like the news where the 5-minute segment at the end is like the little happy blurb.
It's a fluff piece,
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because she does typically show up.
About the local jelly bean carnival.
Exactly. Like, yeah, she's the local jelly bean carnival at the end. Like, that's how she's typically shown up in all these episodes. Or just to be like strong and powerful, which in this series is still pretty much jelly bean carnivals. But I'm a 4. I think I'm down a point from last time, because like I broke even then, but this time, like, I feel like we're setting up for some serious crap next episode.
Wow. Okay. Well, a 4 is pretty low, so
I'm more scared.
More scared
than I feel I should be, which scares me more, which brings my rating down.
And do you feel like most of your fear is coming from like what the Tyrells are doing, or what's going on up north, or where's most of your fear coming from?
It's everywhere.
It's all of Westeros.
It's in the walls. It's in my clothes. It's in the water.
You just can't shake it no matter where you go.
No, it follows me.
Well, as always, Zach, it is a treat watching you watch Game of Thrones. I'm glad we got to watch this episode because I love seeing all this play out, especially knowing what happens.
You're breaking my soul.
And seeing you squirm a little here is great.
No, I'm not even squirming anymore. I'm trying not to squirm, and it still doesn't make it better.
So I hope you guys are enjoying Zach's journey through this too. So especially if you've seen the show before.
Why?
I know you're probably enjoying this. So
definitely do.
Yeah, if you
I don't know what it means to you otherwise.
If you would like to connect with us in any way, make sure to follow us on YouTube. You can like and subscribe this video to our channel, and like this video, comment anything on there. We'd love to hear from you guys, and if you got any questions as well that you would like to have Zach try and answer on the show as a part of our thing too, feel free to do that. Especially if you know where things are going, you can send those.
Don't completely spoil things. It's like, how do you feel about this character when they may or may not die?
Yeah, don't spoil the show, please. But
I've been so good.
You can send those questions in to us via YouTube, via Twitter, via Tumblr. We got all those places. Just check us out. Useful NPCs. We're there, so you can find us. Also on iTunes if you are listening to this podcast in other places, so you can make sure to follow us there as well. And man, yeah. So we are quickly working our way through season 3. Zach, I hope you're enjoying it. For all the wriggling that you are doing here.
I really am, but it's just like, dang.
I know you'll survive. I know you're strong.
I'm getting there. It's weird. The show gives me weird strength.
And yet you are here. You're in season 3. You're making it through it.
But I don't know if anyone else will. I feel as if I'm gonna look back from like season 8 or something. I'm gonna be like, no one from the beginning's here but Tyrion. All right.
Well, there's one prediction. So you think Tyrion's gonna be around forever?
I don't even know. I feel as if he may just get like Lord Farquaaded at the end and just eaten by a dragon.
I feel like it's really unfortunate that you compared Tyrion to Lord Farquaad.
They're both short.
I'm
tired. I know they're nowhere near as great a characters as each other.
Yeah. I'm glad you realized that.
I know that much. Lord Farquaad is much better.
I'm rolling my eyes.
I'm trying to hurt you, but it's not working.
Yeah, that was said to intentionally hurt me. And it won't.
Cersei.
Sticks and stones, Zach. Sticks and stones.
But George R.R. Martin will break my bones.
That is very true. And your spirit.
My heart bones.
All right, well, we'll catch you next time.
Love is we